Tonight's story is an original mystery inspired by documented wilderness disappearances and search and rescue investigations. While the investigative procedures reflect real-world practices, the characters, locations, and events are fictional. My son disappeared in under 60 seconds, less than 20 feet from where I was standing, in full daylight. On a Sunday morning, he was found 18 days later, alive, in a location that no search team had reached, in a direction that tracking dogs had not indicated, in physical condition that the attending physician described as inconsistent with 18 days in the wilderness. He was 7 years old. He came back, and what he brought back with him, what he remembered, what the search record documented, what the investigators could not explain, has not resolved in the 2 years since. My name is Thomas Heller. I am 43 years old. I spent 11 years as a high school science teacher. I was trained to trust what can be observed, documented, and verified. I believe in evidence and repeatable results. I don't know what to do with the evidence from this case. I've been trying to figure that out for 2 years. His name is Owen James Heller. He was 7 when he disappeared. He is 9 now. He's fine. By every clinical measure available, he is fine. And the 18 days between the moment I turned my back at a campsite and the moment a forest road crew found him sitting by a creek are, 2 years later, still not fully explained. This is what I know. We had been camping as a family since before Owen was born. By the summer, he was 7. He had his own pack, his own sleeping bag, and a stuffed elephant named Gerald that had been his constant companion since he was 2. Gerald was gray, with a worn left ear from being held too tightly too many times. Owen knew the protocol. Stop, call out, stay in place, make noise. We had practiced it. He found it funny. He was always good at it. He was not a child who wandered. He had never, in 7 years, gone anywhere without telling me or Claire first. He was afraid of the dark. He was afraid of strangers. He was not the kind of child who slips away quietly. That is the part I keep returning to. Not the tracks that weren't there. Not the objects that appeared in searched areas. The part that sits at the center of everything is this. Owen would not have gone silently. He would have called my name. We were in the Ironwood Pass Wilderness, 2.3 miles from the Cedar Ridge trailhead. Sunday morning, our last day. Breaking camp. Claire was collapsing the tent poles. I was at the main pack, fitting the bare canister into the main compartment and working the compression buckles in sequence. Owen was on the camp stool near the fire ring, approximately 15 feet to my left. He was eating the last granola bar. I turned to face the pack. Elapsed time, under 60 seconds. I have timed it since. Fitting the canister and working the buckles takes under 60 seconds. I turned back. The camp stool was empty. The granola bar wrapper was on the ground beside it. I said his name the way you do when you're not worried yet. The forest absorbed my voice and returned nothing. We searched for 40 minutes before Claire called 911. We called in alternating intervals so we could listen between our own voices. Every 30 seconds, silence. Listen. Every 30 seconds, silence. Nothing. A 7-year-old who knows to stay put, who is afraid of strangers, who had never gone anywhere without telling us. That child does not run silently. I never heard him call. The ground around camp was mixed. Packed dirt near the fire ring, pine duff under the trees, exposed granite along the eastern edge. After 11 dry days, Footprints appeared in the duff, only when the step was firm enough to compress the dry needles. I went for his prints before anything else. I found his prints from the previous day near the fire ring and near the water cache. From Sunday morning, from the camp stool outward in any direction. Nothing I could read with certainty. I expanded in widening circles, 30 feet, 60, 100 in every direction. No prints, no disturbed brush, no broken branches, no sign that a child had moved through the surrounding terrain in any direction. He had been there. He was gone. The forest between those two facts was blank. Park Ranger Andy Fortis reached camp at 12:47 p.m. She photographed the stool and the wrapper and the surrounding area, documented soil conditions, checked the trail in both directions. She walked the perimeter once, then again. She keyed her radio. Foot trace from subject is not evident at camp perimeter. Not impossible. Not evident. She requested a full SAR activation. The incident commander arrived within 90 minutes. Gary Chu, 17 years running wilderness search operations. He established command at the trailhead and briefed me methodically. Children this age typically don't travel far quickly. They tend to move toward water or visible open areas. The creek drainage and the meadow sections would be prioritized. He said he expected they would find Owen that evening. By evening, 43 searchers were on the ground. The creek drainage had been walked for a mile in each direction, the meadow sections covered, the ridge trail above camp checked. Nothing. The thermal helicopter came at dusk. 2 passes, optimal conditions, cool air, warm body. It found a black bear in a drainage to the east. It found deer. It found the search teams. It did not find a 7-year-old boy. A child missing in a bounded wilderness area, with thermal imaging deployed at optimal conditions, should have been found that first evening. He was not. The tracking dogs arrived before midnight. 2 handlers, 2 dogs, from a facility 3 hours south. They were given Owen's fleece jacket, worn Saturday evening, left in the tent. Both dogs established the scent immediately at the camp stool. High confidence work, both handlers confirmed. Clean trail, strong scent. They tracked him east, toward the cluster of granite boulders at the edge of camp. The same boulders Owen had climbed on Saturday. The same ones he'd shown me how to balance on. The dogs reached the boulders and stopped. They worked the area for 40 minutes, circling, casting, checking every possible exit, north, south, east, west. No continuing trail. The handlers explained, granite doesn't hold scent the way soil does. A trail becoming difficult on granite is not unusual, but it doesn't simply end there. A child moving beyond the granite would leave scent on whatever comes next. The duff on the far side, the soil at the base, the vegetation. The trail gets harder, then picks up. Both dogs worked every angle of the boulder perimeter. No pickup, no continuation. The scent ended at the rock and did not resume anywhere on the other side. A second dog team from the regional facility arrived on day 2 and worked the boulders fresh. Same result. 3 independent dogs, every exit angle. The scent of a living 7-year-old child ended on dry granite and did not continue. Gary Chu told me privately on day 2 that he had not seen this before. A child's scent ending cleanly on exposed rock, with no pickup on any surrounding surface. He said, "The dogs are telling us something stopped here. They can't tell us what came next." What came next was the question the search would spend 2 weeks not answering. Day 2. A team half a mile north of camp found Owen's left trail runner sitting on top of a flat rock beside the trail, not dropped, not lying where it fell. Sitting, sole down, toe pointing north, laces still tied. The trail surface on both sides was hard-packed clay that holds prints well. The area around the rock was pine duff and dry grass. No prints, no disturbance. One shoe on top of a rock, laces tied, as if placed there deliberately. The search logs confirmed that trail section had been covered on day 1. The shoe had not been there on day 1. It appeared between day 1 and day 2. I asked the tracking specialist, Marshall Coe, 30 years of field work, the kind of man other trackers name with a specific tone, what he made of it. He said, "A child under stress doesn't stop to arrange objects. The placement is inconsistent with a child traveling alone." He said, "I can account for Owen's movement from the camp stool to the eastern boulders. Soil compression between those points is consistent with a child's weight. He walked there." He said, "From the boulders forward, I cannot establish his direction. I've worked every angle. The terrain doesn't give me anything." He said, "The shoe placement requires another party. Someone who knew where the trail was, knew where the rock was, and placed the shoe in a manner that suggested intention." I said, "Then someone was with him." He said, "The evidence requires another party. But that party left no trace, no footprints, no scent the dogs could follow, no compression I can find in any soil I've examined." He paused. He said, "In 30 years, I have not worked a case where I could not determine the direction of travel of the subject." Day 3. A volunteer team on the western ridge found Gerald, Owen's stuffed elephant, gray, worn left ear, sitting upright against the base of a large ponderosa pine, facing outward, the way you'd set something down if you wanted it to be seen. Gerald had been inside Owen's pack, inside the tent, on Sunday morning. He should not have been on a ridge 800 yards from camp. He was dry. The previous night had brought a light dew. Everything at ground level that morning was damp. Gerald wasn't damp. He had been placed there after the dew formed. During the night, while search teams worked the lower terrain, the ridge had been covered on day 2. 3 separate teams had worked that ground. Gerald hadn't been there. Something had moved through the active search area in the dark, carrying Owen's stuffed elephant, and propped it against a tree. Facing outward, the search logs, the GPS tracks, the documented coverage, all of it confirmed. That ridge, that specific tree, had been searched 24 hours before Gerald appeared against it. I asked Marshall Coe about the ridge placement specifically. He said, 800 yards uphill in the dark during an active search operation. That placement required knowledge of the terrain and deliberate movement through an area being actively worked by search teams. He said, "I cannot explain how that was accomplished without leaving physical evidence." He said it twice, without leaving physical evidence. Whatever moved Gerald through the dark left nothing behind. No boot print, no disturbed vegetation, no scent the dogs could work. Gary Chu told me that evening that the case had moved into territory he had not encountered before. He was careful with the words, territory he had not encountered before. On day 5, a volunteer named Carla Dempsey, 14 years in wilderness SAR, reported hearing a child's laughter while working the Eastern Creek drainage. Once, brief, coming from the direction of the boulder field. She radioed immediately. A team reached the boulders in 12 minutes. Nothing. On day 6, Todd Reardon, working the North Ridge, reported hearing a child's voice say a single word. Dad. Once. Clearly. He estimated the direction as below him, toward the drainage. A team covered the drainage in 8 minutes. Nothing. On day 7, a volunteer named Suzanne Park, a pediatric nurse from out of the area who had driven 3 hours to help, reported hearing what she described as a child singing to itself while working a section of Creekside Trail. High and tuneless, the way children sing when they're alone and occupied. 4 or 5 seconds, coming from behind a dense stand of pine. She pushed through immediately. The stand was not large, nothing on the other side. She was certain she had heard a child. She stood on the far side of that pine stand and listened for 5 minutes. Silence. 3 witnesses across 3 days, all experienced, a mile apart from each other, all hearing a child in terrain that had been searched, in locations where follow-up teams found nothing. The search coordinator told me privately that extended child searches sometimes produce witness reports like these. Stress, the intense desire to find someone. The mind supplies what the heart needs. I understood what he was telling me, but Carla Dempsey had rotated in on day 5. She was not sleep-deprived. She was experienced. And she had heard a child laugh. And Todd Reardon had heard my son's name for me. I keep coming back to that. Heard my son's name. What happens in the 8 minutes between a voice and a team arriving where the voice came from? Day 8. A team working dense second-growth pine 2 miles from camp found Owen's red fleece jacket in the fork of a tree. The same jacket packed inside the tent Sunday morning. Folded. Placed in the fork, with the zipper aligned. At a height no 7-year-old could reach without assistance. 2 miles northeast of camp. The objects were moving in a direction, or being placed in one. Marshall Coe, when I showed him the log and the GPS coordinates of each object, sat with the map for a long time. He said, "They describe a line. Shoe, half a mile north. Gerald, 800 yards west on the ridge. Jacket, 2 miles northeast. All within the search perimeter, all in areas that had been searched before they appeared," he said. "A line can mean direction, or it can mean someone wants you to think it means direction." He said he couldn't determine which. Day 9. A hiker arriving at the trailhead found a stone arrangement on a flat rock a mile in on the trail. 7 stones in a rough circle, a pine cone in the center. Owen had made one on Saturday. 7 stones in a ring on the granite slab above the creek. I had watched him make it. He'd been pleased with the arrangement. Same number. 3 search teams had covered that trail section on days 1, 2, and 3. The arrangement had not been reported. It appeared sometime between day 3 and day 9. 7 stones. 6 months after the search, a deer hunter found Owen's orange child's compass under a log 3 miles northeast of the campsite. His grandfather had given it to him the previous Christmas. 3 miles northeast, the direction the jacket had pointed. I filed it with the search coordinator. He noted the directional pattern in his report. He could not explain what produced it. 4 months after the disappearance, a private search team returned to the boulder field. At a specific angle, under a granite overhang, one team member found a narrow crack in the rock. Inside the crack, folded twice, was a piece of paper, a drawing, pencil, Crude lines. A central figure with a single curved line for the body and circles for hands, the way Owen always drew figures. Trees surrounding it. And in the upper right corner, behind the trees, a second shape. Larger than the central figure, partially obscured. Claire identified the drawing style without hesitation. The pressure marks, the specific hand rendering. The way he drew eyes as two dots. The boulders had been searched 3 times, including once by Marshall Coe. The crack was narrow, the paper folded small. It could have been there from the beginning and been missed in repeated searches. Or it could have been placed there after. No way to determine which. Marshall Coe examined the drawing. He said, "The central figure is most likely Owen. The trees are trees." He said, "The figure behind the trees is larger. It could be an adult. It could be a landform. The lines are a child's lines." He said, "I can't tell you what Owen was drawing. I can tell you that he drew something behind the trees." He left it there. I have not been able to leave it there. By day 14, the search had involved over 300 people. 2 weeks. Thermal imaging deployed 6 times. Canine units from 3 facilities. Aerial patrols. Grid searches. Specialist tracking. The physical evidence recovered. 1 shoe, 1 stuffed elephant, 1 jacket, 1 stone arrangement, 1 drawing, 1 compass. Each in a different location. Each placed with apparent deliberateness. No footprints associated with any of them. The search coordinator's final briefing identified one operational gap that has stayed with me since. GPS analysis of team path data showed a section of dense second-growth pine and boulder field approximately 600 yards northeast of camp, where coverage had been logged as complete, but path analysis showed teams had worked the edges of the section rather than the interior. 600 yards northeast, the same quadrant where Gerald and the jacket had been found, the same general direction the compass pointed, a pocket of terrain inside the logged search zone that had not actually been entered. The review recommended additional coverage. As of my last conversation with the search coordinator, that section had not been fully covered. I've asked about it multiple times. 600 yards northeast. I'd think about it every day. The formal search had been suspended for 4 days when the call came. A road maintenance crew working a forest access road on the far northeastern edge of the wilderness had found a child sitting on a flat rock at the edge of a creek. Calm. Alone. Owen James Heller. He looked up at the crew and said, "Are you looking for me?" He was airlifted to a regional hospital. I drove. I do not remember the drive. The attending physician was direct. She told us what she found without softening it. Mild dehydration, now corrected. Minor abrasion on his forearms, consistent with moving through brush at some point. No significant injuries to his feet or lower legs despite 18 days in the wilderness. She said, "His caloric depletion is consistent with approximately 3 to 4 days without food, not 18. She said, "His thermoregulation is more stable than I would expect. 600 feet of elevation, August nights at the low 40s, no sleeping bag. His core temperature when we admitted him was within normal range." She said, "His physical condition is what I would expect from a child who had been cared for." She said it carefully. Cared for. I asked, "Was he alone out there?" She said, "I cannot answer that from the physical examination. What I can tell you is that the physical markers of sustained wilderness exposure, the ones I look for in these cases, are not what I see in this child." she said. He should look like 18 days in the wilderness. He doesn't. The formal interview was conducted 2 days after his return by a specialist with experience in child trauma interviews. I observed. Owen's memory of the 18 days was fragmentary in the specific way that made the specialist note it. He remembered the boulder field clearly. He remembered pressing his hand against the rock, because it was cold, and I wanted to feel it. He remembered walking northeast, following the creek, and he remembered not being alone. He said, "Someone was there." The specialist asked who. He said, "I don't know exactly. Someone who knew the forest." He said, "I wasn't scared. I was hungry sometimes, but I wasn't scared." He said, "We walked a lot. I slept a lot. I remember being warm at night." The specialist asked what the person looked like. Owen thought for a long time. He said, "I don't remember their face very well. I remember their hands, and I remember they were quiet." He said, "They showed me things. In the creek. Under rocks." The specialist asked if they told him their name. He said, "I don't think so. Or maybe I forgot." He said, "I knew you were looking for me. I could feel it. But I couldn't hear you." I had thought about this already. The acoustic mapping specialist I had consulted during the search had found no dead zone within the credible travel distance. No location where megaphones and helicopters would be inaudible. Owen said he couldn't hear us. The specialist asked about the shoe, about Gerald, about the jacket. Owen said he had left things as markers. He said he thought if he left markers, someone would find the right direction. She asked about the jacket specifically, folded in a tree fork at a height he could not have reached. He was quiet for a moment. He said, "I don't remember putting that one there." He said it without distress. The way you say you don't remember something that doesn't particularly trouble you, he said. Maybe the other person did. He said it simply. Then he asked if he could see Gerald. I had the case reviewed at the 12-month mark by a retired SAR coordinator who had spent 27 years in mountain wilderness operations and had written the standard reference on search methodology in the Pacific Northwest. He spent 2 days with the documentation. He said, "The search operation was well run. The methodology was sound. The coverage density was high," he said, "and yet." He walked through the evidence point by point. The scent ending at the boulder field, documented phenomenon on exposed granite, but unusual for the scent not to resume on any surrounding surface. 2 teams, 3 dogs, no pickup anywhere on the boulder perimeter. The objects appearing in searched areas without footprints, each individually explainable as a search gap or misidentification of timing. All of them together, across 14 days, in the same general directional pattern, without a single associated footprint. He said he had no precedent for that combination. Owen's physical condition, consistent with what he called compressed exposure. Not unheard of in child survival cases. Children's thermoregulation and caloric efficiency can be remarkable under stress. But he said, "The jacket placement is the detail I keep returning to. 6 feet off the ground, folded in a tree fork. A 7-year-old doesn't reach that without assistance, and Owen says he doesn't remember placing it." He said, Owen's account describes a presence that kept him calm, kept him warm, and oriented him northeast in the direction which he was found. The physical evidence is consistent with that account. It doesn't prove it, he said. The unexamined section northeast of camp is the thing that concerns me most. 600 yards, in the direction of every object, in the direction Owen was found. That section should have been covered. He paused. He said, "I can give you a framework that accounts for most of this. Environmental factors, search methodology gaps, a child's remarkable resilience. That framework holds for most of the evidence," he said. "It doesn't hold for all of it. The jacket, the drawing, Owen saying he couldn't hear the search. Those three things don't fit cleanly." He closed his file. He said, "Owen is alive. That matters more than the explanation." He said, "But the explanation isn't there, and I want to be honest with you about that." 2 years later, the case file is still open. 4 things remain without explanation. The first, the scent trail ended at the eastern boulder field and did not resume on any surrounding surface. 3 dogs from 2 facilities, working independently, stopped at the same point and could not continue. Owen was found 18 days later and 4 miles northeast of those boulders. Whatever happened between the boulders and the recovery location has not been established. The second, objects from Owen's pack appeared in areas previously searched, without associated footprints, across 14 days, in a general directional pattern pointing northeast. Owen says he left some of them as markers. He says he doesn't remember placing the jacket. The drawing, with its second figure behind the trees, was found in a crack in the boulder field 4 months after a search. The third, Owen's physical condition upon recovery was inconsistent with 18 days of unsupported wilderness exposure. He was cared for, by his account, by someone he cannot clearly describe and whose name he does not remember. The physical evidence is consistent with his account, doesn't identify who the other person was. The fourth, the section of dense second-growth pine 600 yards northeast of camp has not been fully searched. It is the section nearest the line described by the objects. It is the direction Owen was found. It has not been entered. I have asked about that section 12 times. I will keep asking. Owen is 9 now. He's doing well by every measure that matters. He has his own room, his own shelf of field guides. He has developed a specific interest in aquatic insects, which his teachers find charming, and which I find harder to think about than I expected. He has friends. He plays soccer. He sleeps with a light on. He still has Gerald. The worn left ear is worse now, from more nights than I can count. He doesn't talk about the 18 days often. When he does, it's in the same fragmentary way. The creek, the quiet, the warmth at night, the person he can't quite describe. Once, about 6 months after his recovery, he said to me, "I knew you were coming. I knew it the whole time." I said, "How did you know?" He thought about it for a while. He said, "I just knew." He went back to his book. I went back to the case file. The handprint is still on the granite at the eastern boulder field in the Ironwood Pass wilderness. A child's hand, pressed flat against cold stone. Fingers spread. Photographed. Documented. Filed. Consistent with Owen's hand. Consistent with being made before the search found him. Not confirmed as his. Not ruled out. He was there. Then he was gone. Then he was back. And the 60 seconds in between, the 60 seconds when I turned to fit a bare canister into a pack and turned back to an empty stool and a granola bar wrapper on the ground. Those 60 seconds have not been explained. 2 years later, they have not been explained. This story is a work of fiction inspired by real wilderness disappearance cases and search and rescue investigations.